And we are live, guys. How are you doing this fantastic Tuesday? It's Tuesday today. I was going to say Monday, but it's not Monday. It's Tuesday. James.
Yeah, a little bit nervous with some of the geopolitical stuff happening right now. I don't know what's real and what's not, but that is a concern.
Marty.
Oh, he's pumping
Pump
it up.
is ready.
Pumping it. Bull posting all day.
I felt like we
good,
would.
Man. Everything's good. Yeah, this
Big one.
political stuff comes at a real weird time. It feels real orchestrated. Nothing burger narrative bullshit.
Well, I don't know. A missile firing into wherever it went is a bit concerning, and it's a U.S. missile, and it's orchestrated by NATO, from what I've read. That is deeply, deeply alarming, and how this stuff can happen in this day and age makes me very upset. Anyway, I think we should talk about that today.
I'm doing
I
great.
agree with you. I think it's ridiculous. I don't know anybody would agree with this. It seems like an or out of left field, just a radical political move or something. I don't know what, or instigating war. I don't know what's going on now.
We will cover it. We will talk about that on the first bullet point. We'll cover Bitcoin. We'll talk about this crypto, go snowballing. That was the term I used. This crypto snowballing, Bitcoin snowballing, Trump buying crypto exchange, corporate treasuries are actually buying now. Is the US Treasury idea, is it a real possibility? Could it actually happen? MicroStrategy is going crazy. Is it the big plan of Michael Saylor? Is it crazy or is it possible? Solana is approaching all-time highs. We look at the SOL to ETH ratio. Cardano is pumping. I know a lot of people are happy about that. Is it the beginning of Altseason, or is that off forever? We'll talk about memes versus utility alts, processes. We'll talk about AI agents and decentralized science coins that I know very little about at this point. But since I'm moderating today, I take the freedom to start here a little bit. I think the Bitcoin price action as of this moment still looks absolutely fantastic. Price has moved up, and this is forming into an ascending triangle. You can see that the lower boundary is moving up higher and higher. There is this horizontal resistance, but if this candle closes here or continues a little bit more up, we have another breakout. And of course, I don't know what the market will do, but a reasonable guess is I think that it moves up to the logical point of 100K and then front run a little bit. So a little below that perhaps could be the next resistance. But then we have the geopolitical developments that no one is, I'm kind of shocked to see that happened. I don't know much more than I've read here. Ukraine launches Biden-supplied long-range missiles into Russia as world on edge waiting for Putin's response. This is not what we want to see when Bitcoin is at the key breakout point. If looking at other assets, just to continue one more second on that, I don't see the markets in general dumping that much. If looking at stock futures or other assets, and Bitcoin is up 2%. What's your take on this, guys? What's happening in the market? Who wants to start?
Let's go up on the corner. James, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, the big thesis has always been, is Bitcoin a risk on or a risk off asset? Will it start behaving like gold? And as you say, the market is not exactly crashing. Maybe it's like a boy who cried wolf thing. We've heard so many threats of all these types of escalations, but I think this one has some legs. But the fact that Bitcoin has been strong through the night tells me maybe the days of it being a risk-on asset could be over. And then you have MicroStrategy being an amplified version of Bitcoin, just keeps on defying gravity that very few understand. But it's simple to understand when you break it down to simple terms. And that is, they issue debt at 0% in melting fiat to buy Bitcoin. Bitcoin goes up. They issue more shares. As the their stock price goes up to buy more Bitcoin. Bitcoin goes up. Your title is Snowball CTO, which is very profound because that's exactly what's happening here. It's a complete snowball effect that nothing can stop. So it's very interesting to watch all this play out. And I think what's going to happen next is 2025 will be the year of the Treasuries, where every company sitting on cash is going to deploy that cash and follow the MicroStrategy playbook. We have some companies doing it now, but literally zero penetration in the S&P 500, with the exception of Tesla. And a lot more will come. So it's going to be fun. Your mom's on TV. Hey.
That is incredible.
I thought that was some type of AI thing you had going on there.
AI mom.
Yeah.
That is incredible, T.
That's wonderful. What does she say about Marty? What's her thoughts on the Bitcoin situation?
My mother, I just show her the weekly chart and then I say up or down, and she just says up right now. So it doesn't take a genius to look at the chart and know what's going to happen. Yeah, guys, I agree.
Would outperform most people.
My take on this Russia thing is interesting. I mean, it's all in this Bryansk region, right? Which is at the border. It's this land that's always been under contention. It used to be Russia, then it became Ukraine after the World War II. So it's quite interesting that Ukraine is actually firing missiles at Ukraine. But anyway, Russia has made a statement that they do not want nuclear war. So I'm not sure how to spin it, what the reality is, whether it's aggression from NATO, retaliation, kind of like another Iran thing where it's a tit for tat. We have to do something just, because we said we would. I don't know. But I know that Russia shut down the missiles. There was a little bit of damage to a military base. There were no deaths. So obviously these missiles aren't like, ridiculously evolved, strong missiles. These are just, I don't know. They're just regular missiles, just like the Iran-Israel thing. They get shot down by these Iron Dome things. So it could be a nothing burger. The media sure as hell on making a nothing burger. They're loving it. I think it's very coincidental that it comes so soon after the Trump election and so soon after Bitcoin pump. There's just, the coincidences are just crazy. In my opinion, this goes back to my statement weeks ago. Armageddon is priced into Bitcoin. Bitcoin no longer cares about this stuff. I agree with James. I think Bitcoin with education, the evolving education, people's understanding, and the arms race at a sovereign reserve level, I think it's become a risk-off asset, finally, like gold. So that's what I think we're seeing. I don't think people care anymore. In fact, it's a flight to Bitcoin now. So there we go. And if you look at the Binance order book, it proves that there's huge buy walls at 90,000 and there's sell walls at 93. And it's being moved up very, very structurally. So we are being traded up on Bitcoin. Every time Binance tries to flush, it flushes straight into institutional buy walls. That's not working anymore. They can't flush more than a couple $1,000s. Every time we pump, we get the paper hams leaving and the sellers going. It's a beautiful bull market structure to me. That's all we're seeing. Unaffected
Mando,
by
what's your thoughts on this? You always have interesting takes from a macro perspective.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with either. I mean, I agree with some of the takes, but I think with Ukraine, so just take a step back. Like a few days ago, Russia launched a massive attack on the Ukrainian energy infrastructure, and Ukraine is cold in the winter, like very, very, very cold. And as a response, Biden said, you can use U.S. missiles in Russia to attack Russian land. Now you could say obviously there's been escalation on both sides up until that, but that was the thing that switched it. It did seem like a strange move from Biden at this stage of his presidency. It definitely felt like the recent rhetoric we got even from both sides was that we could move to a pretty quick peace if Trump came in, and this feels like a massive escalation. But that being said, Russia did attack a huge amount of the Ukrainian energy infrastructure over that time period. And this is something that the Ukrainians have been asking for many, many months, and it wasn't granted, and it's now been granted at this stage. There was also the other escalation is that North Korea sent 10,000 troops, which are now being used on the front line of the Russian front, which also was an escalation, but not quite the escalation of the energy infrastructure, I think, which is a big deal. Ukraine can't deal without energy infrastructure over a winter as cold as it gets there. So this has now led to an escalation. Russia over the last few hours basically has been moving back towards talking about lowering the threshold for nukes, which is something that we haven't really heard about in that region for like many months, right? Right at the start of the war, there was talk of tactical nukes potentially as those two forces clashed, but then it kind of died away and people didn't think it would go that route. So I am surprised that it's gone down this route. I understand the escalation, but I also think that at this stage, I don't really know why Biden reached for that. But it kind of is what it is. And hopefully that doesn't escalate from here. With respect to like Bitcoin, it was actually coming off its lowest correlation to gold in many, many months, right? Bitcoin had been going higher and gold actually gone lower because of we spoke about last week, to strengthen the dollar, which continues to strengthen the dollar. Gold has since rebounded. I think Bitcoin is just in a class of its own. I wouldn't even think about it as a safe haven or not. Like I'm not looking at Bitcoin right now and thinking it's rallying because it's a safe haven asset. I'm just think it's rallying because there's so much bullishness coming out about Bitcoin every single day, particularly from the Trump admin. So I think it's more that it lost correlation with everything rather than it's gold's just gone high because it's a safe haven. But I don't think Bitcoin is being viewed in that lens of the Russia US thing right now. It caused a brief sell-off in stocks overnight, although Tesla was super strong yesterday, so the Nasdaq didn't really go lower at all yesterday. I think it was actually higher. And Nvidia results are today, of which they normally absolutely smash it out of the park. So we haven't seen a breakdown in tech stocks. That would be the real test, I think, to see if Bitcoin was continuing to be in its own plane. But this escalation, I understand where it's come from. I do think it's a bit, it's a strange time for that to happen, for sure. And they've been doing a few different things here. Like Biden's definitely not having a quiet end to his presidency. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I don't think Biden in any way is in control at all. I think he's like a robotic vegetable walking around. No offense to any Biden fans here, but he should be taken off the stage. He should not be allowed near any decision making. And it's just incredible that there's such a lag between a new administration and an old one, that this can actually happen. Anyway, back to Bitcoin, which is more interesting, is the hardness. One of the things that completely blows me away is for the first time ever, we're going to see the most incredible, insatiable demand hit absolute scarcity. And that's never happened before. Like just over the last 10 days, MicroStrategy bought 79,000 Bitcoin. One player, 79,000. That is like half a year of Bitcoin issuance. And this is just going to continue. And 2025 is going to be bonkers. And I think this is what people need to really think about and be focused on. And there's a lot of talk now, oh, am I too late? It's above 90,000. Well, this thing's going up. And I will take a very brave forecast right here, right now. We're going to be above 100K before Christmas at this rate.
Nice. I called 100K by today. Oops. Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, the biggest news for me, obviously we'll talk about it, but the biggest news for me is this Bitcoin Act of 2024, S4912, that got written up now, is in the Congress.gov. It's in the roll to get voted on, which defines Bitcoin as a reserve asset. And if you read all the details, just unbelievable stuff. The Federal Reserve is getting power and resources removed from it, very direct action that we've always said should happen. And if
so let's talk about that. Can this actually happen, or is it like, are we all daydreaming here, or what would it take for US to actually have a Bitcoin reserve? It feels like
just have to pass. Just have to pass the House and the Senate. It's up for vote, which is the big thing. It's not just talk. It's actually here on the government website, introduced into the Senate. S4912.
So
I think that's the biggest news of the week. And then obviously what James says, BlackRock is just, if you look at the numbers, they're now just under 190,000 Bitcoin behind Binance. The MicroStrategies has now gone into the third position behind BlackRock. I mean, it's just an arms race, and MicroStrategy, I believe, is leading the way. They could ultimately own the most Bitcoin, I think, at this rate, turning debt into Bitcoin, just a genius strategy.
Can we talk about that a little bit, James? Because that's been one of the main crazy moves. Like, how much Bitcoin does MicroStrategy own, and what is its equity value, and why is there that big a gap? Because it's gone hugely above its total amount of holdings, right? It's
331,000.
Yeah, they have nearly a third of a million Bitcoin, and I calculate that's about 2.366% of the amount of Bitcoin that will ever exist, which is a very large share, nearly 2.5%. Because remember, over 5 million Bitcoin have been lost over the last 15 years. And per all my calculations, there'll never be more than 14 million Bitcoin. So when people talk about 21 million Bitcoin, it's not actually factually correct. It's more like 14 million, maybe 15, best case. So they have a huge chunk. The story is real simple. A lot of people don't have an on-ramp to Bitcoin. There are institutions now that I know of that are buying MicroStrategy for exposure to Bitcoin. There are people in the UK, as you know, in your ISA account. If you have an ISA account, you can't buy Bitcoin. But what can you buy? MicroStrategy. So it's the on-ramp. It's like it's like the what do they call the beginner drug for people that can't get spot Bitcoin, but they want to taste, and they get MicroStrategy. And we have some other interesting things is when you look forward, so the marketplace stock market is designed to be forward looking. The other very special thing about Michael Saylor is he tells you exactly what he's going to do, how much he's going to do, and pretty much when he's going to do it. So markets like predictability, and he has a lot of predictability and a lot of trust. So they just like the guy, you know? And then he's on all the podcasts and stuff. He said, I think yesterday, and Patrick Bet David, every Bitcoin you don't buy is going to be worth $13 million. And I think, you know, Fidelity have it over $1 billion out 20 years. I think that's possible because it's absolutely scarce. So don't be too cute. Don't sell it. You know, what do you say, CTO? You only sell something when you need to buy something. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, it is fantastic. A lot of credit to you, James, that you talked about MicroStrategy. You were the person who really started seriously talking about it that I heard. And the first time you explained it, I kind of didn't get it. It was like third time or something that I understood. So it is a very genius move that he has done, the way he has constructed this, and almost found a loophole to enable this setup and find a new way to raise money, really. And
people still overthink it because the calculus is not very hard. You're taking a depreciating asset, which is fiat, you're borrowing it at 0%, and you're buying an appreciating asset with it that goes up on average 40% per year. It's the simplest trade ever. Literally, it's stupid simple, and people still don't see it.
So why?
And when he buys this much, it goes up when he's buying. So it's like self-fulfilling, basically.
Yes, it's a genius strategy.
Right, but MicroStrategy trades at $43 billion market cap, right? Or roughly
more. It's nearly 90 billion.
90 billion.
Yeah.
And it had 16 billion of Bitcoin.
No, they have right now about 31 billion of Bitcoin.
So it's trading about 3x its asset value.
Yeah, there's a thing called NAV premium. It's trading about 1.5x NAV premium, net asset value to premium. But as you forecast forward the growth of Bitcoin, it's going to back into that. So if you can sit on the stock for 3 months to 6 months, it'll go down. And what they're also doing, they have a thing called I can't remember the term, the actual premium on the amount of Bitcoin per share. They try and grow that all the time. So what you are actually doing is if you buy a MicroStrategy share, over time, their plan is to increase the amount of Bitcoin you hold per share.
Right.
That's what they call Bitcoin yield.
Would you rather or the ETF? That's why I'm just trying to get I always thought that equity value essentially was because he might end up doing stuff with the Bitcoin, right? He was talking about like a Bitcoin bank. He might actually like end up creating productive enterprise on the top of it. But I don't know if I just like just as a premium to NAV. Why is that? Why is that? If you can access the ETF, would you still buy MicroStrategy?
If you look back, so again, think of it as a time lag in the markets. You borrow fiat at 0%, buy Bitcoin, it goes up. So he's front running the appreciation of Bitcoin, and that is reflected in the stock price. So don't look at it as a static point in time. This is probably the hardest thing for people to get their heads around. Don't look at it at premium today. Look at the price of Bitcoin out 3 to 6 months. Like we just said, we know Bitcoin's going above 100 grand by Christmas. Okay. Take their bag of 331,200 Bitcoin, multiply that by 100,000. That's the starting point for the next few weeks. And then divide that by the number of shares. Then calculate the price. And that's the simple way to think about it as we go forward. The other thing is, if you look at just the last 2 years, take the MicroStrategy Bitcoin chart. It's up 6x. So Bitcoin has done really well, but MicroStrategy has done 6x better than Bitcoin. And it's just basically, think of Bitcoin as a call option in the future. Think of MicroStrategy as a call option on a call option of the future. And in terms of all the other stuff that they've got going on, you know, they're issuing bonds. They're creating their own bond market. The bond market's dead, the traditional bond market, but this is a new bond market where you get much better yield on a MicroStrategy bond than you would on Bitcoin, which is even more incredible. So people are not buying bonds, but that's why every time he issues, he's going to be issuing $2.5 billion this week, and that'll be oversubscribed in 24 hours.
James, can you talk about what are the chances of MicroStrategy getting included in major stock indices like the SPY? Because that would lead to significant passive buying, right, from funds.
Yeah. So there's some crude rules out there.
Another reason I think people like MicroStrategies over IBIT is there's that chance it goes into SPY.
I think it's probably ranked as the top 200 company now in terms of the S&P 500. But the S&P 500 has some legacy rules from the past that they still have. Like you need 4 successive quarters of earnings. Now, the new FASB accounting rules will help make that happen as long as Bitcoin price keeps going up. So I'd say within
Please talk about that for the audience. I don't think they're aware of the changes coming in December, the accounting rule changes.
Yeah, so you'll be able to price to market the actual gains or losses on your Bitcoin bag. And that's another thing as well that people don't understand. If you imagine you own, say, 1,000 Bitcoin, and Bitcoin goes up 30% in the quarter, like it does now, they can add that profit to their earnings on a quarterly basis. And therefore, the PE of MicroStrategy could go down to like 2 or 3 if MicroStrategy or if Bitcoin has a big pump during that quarter. So in December 2024, in a few weeks, that FASB rule will go into place, and MicroStrategy will be hopefully equipped for that. Once that happens, they need 3 or 4 successive quarters of profit, and then they get added to the S&P 500. And the rules are different for the QQQ, so they could be added to the NASDAQ 100 first. And in terms of the amount of treasuries they have, if you convert their Bitcoin to cash, they're like a top 15 company on the planet in terms of cash holdings, which is hard to believe.
Yeah, I only asked that because I'm just trying to work out how to look at the stock or whether you should own options. It kind of reminds me of, I don't know if you know these like big commodity trading firms like Glencore, where they sometimes get priced over NAV, like price over NAV would be like 1.5, I think, for someone like Glencore or some of the other big like Trafigura or something like that. And that's because they normally do productive things with the asset. But that also bakes in the price increase to a certain extent. I'm just trying to work out like why. I know like you said previously, but I always felt like the premium was so much to do with he was going to do so much with it, and there was this huge equity play on top of the Bitcoin. But I don't know where that value breaks. But I get what you're saying. Like it's obviously going to go up, but I just don't know if you should own Bitcoin or MicroStrategy because of that.
Yeah, there is the other side of the sword as well, double-edged sword, because in a bear market, when the Bitcoin price goes down, you will see MicroStrategy get absolutely clobbered hard. So it'll actually, I was buying MicroStrategy when it was trading at a discount to NAV. Their Bitcoin bag was worth more than the market cap. And then I was using leaps.
Which is also very common for these commodities traders.
Exactly.
Like they go that way true. So it feels like the right things to kind of compare it against would be those commodity traders. The biggest ones, I think, are the biggest ones, but there's a few others. Okay, that's an interesting.
And there's one other analogy as well. You've got some kind of funds that have like an allocation of say 6% or 10% or 15% to SpaceX, those things are trading at 6 or 10x premium to NAV because people are just looking for exposure to that asset. So if you have a crown jewel and people don't have an easy on-ramp, this is what they do.
Yeah, I just felt like with the on-ramps had gotten so much easier. I didn't think that was the main thing of it. But if it is that, then I also kind of understand it. But I kept on seeing him talking about the stuff he was going to do with it, and I just felt like that was the main bull case. But
okay, so let's take it even further. Like I put the agenda item, is it crazy? Because now he's talking about trillions. Now he's talking about doing this into, you know, the tens of trillions. And can he keep doing this? That's the question. Can he keep raising capital, using the capital to buy Bitcoin, price goes up, raise more capital, buy more Bitcoin? How long can he keep doing this?
Again, he can do it as long as there's demand for Bitcoin. If there's no demand for Bitcoin, no, he can't. He has to stop. But that's it. That's like I said at the beginning, we are seeing for the first time ever in the history of this planet, insatiable demand meet absolute scarcity. Remember those two things, everybody. Huge demand, absolute scarcity. You can't make more of this stuff. You got to pry it from the cold, dead hands of the long-term holders, which aren't letting go until maybe 200,000 or $1 million or whatever else. Years ago, I had this chart of the price at which some of these people would sell that the OG Bitcoiners that have been in since 2013. And they're saying, I'm not selling any till $1 million. I have a simple life and da-da-da. They have this whole plan and then they want to do something very big and profound. So it's going to be hard to unravel that Bitcoin. And then we haven't even seen sovereigns and pensions and all these other players come in yet. Other S&P 500s. It's going to be crazy.
Exactly. So we have so much to talk about.
There's never been such a thing, a globally fungible commodity that's transferable, has no counterparties. And so people are converting debt into hard assets. They used to do it with gold. They're doing it with Bitcoin. I think you're going to see a massive move. Debt into Bitcoin is the new narrative. Everyone's doing it. I have people in my community buying Bitcoin with credit cards, paying it the week later and doing the arbitrage. This is MicroStrategies. This is the US government. They're all going to do the same thing. It's all about cheap money now. The new narrative will be, where can you get cheap money? Cheap debt. This all goes to interest rates. It's getting the gamification in this arena is going to become the new narrative.
Okay, I have to say, I advise against buying anything speculative on credit card, guys. Get the money first, then buy it. Anyway, let's continue our agenda. We have other stuff on. Sorry, Amanda, please.
The big difference there is though that your credit card will charge you APY of in tens to hundreds %. Like he's getting it at like 0.75%. So that's the difference.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Cheap money. The cheaper the money, the better the trade.
How about this? Is this real? Is Trump's company, his Trump media company, where he is the majority owner, they are in talks to buy crypto exchange. Speaking of spiraling, will the US have a president that is owning a crypto exchange? That would put things in a whole different perspective, I think. Do you have any insights about this?
Does it surprise you? I mean, he did like an ICO token 2 weeks ago. Like he's all in. Now, normally when you become president, you have to divest a large proportion of all your holdings, right? That's one of the main things of becoming president, that you can't really have that many private interests. So I don't know, but he does own a significant stake in Trump media.
The biggest aspect of this, Mando, that I don't think people are aware of is BACT was founded, I think, in 2018, right, by ICE, Intercontinental Exchange. You know what else they own? Intercontinental Exchange, us. They own the New York Stock Exchange.
Yep.
Right. So there's your significant angle. Trump is trying to buy, an exchange owned by the company that owns the New York Stock Exchange. I think that's an angle. Interesting. Yeah. Anyway,
I think and this route, right? They tried to do the ICO. They didn't raise that much, but he clearly wants upside from whatever's going to happen in crypto. And it would unsurprise me if Trump media or the Trump family get involved in more crypto stuff.
Sure.
Yeah, definitely. We have talked about Bitcoin for the first half an hour, and I think that it's clear that there's so much happening now. There are so many factors. The corporate treasuries are actually buying. Which one was it today? Mara Holding, MetaPlanet in Japan, Genius Group, more
Similar.
news of all Tudor. And
Yeah.
I mean, so this we talked about that probably corporate treasuries will find that fiat sitting there really boring and thinking, why are we not buying any Bitcoin? And then that also kicks in.
Yeah, I think the most amazing thing is the marathon story. They announced 700 million, I think, to convert yesterday. Now they've already been oversubscribed. They're going up to $1 billion. But think of it this: the simple analogy I like to use is, you have a chocolate factory going out on the market and buying chocolate.
Right.
They mine Bitcoin, and they're buying Bitcoin. And they're the biggest public miner in terms of the most hash on the planet as well. So it is just absolutely crazy. There was also a Chinese EV maker bought a Bitcoin miner in the desert in the Middle East yesterday as well. I mean, the type of stuff happening behind the scenes is, again, this is the first mover advantage. This is game theory. We are watching the absolute explosion of game theory into this space like we've never seen before. So it's exciting. 2025 is going to be bonkers, guaranteed.
I couldn't agree with that more. Like, I do this daily newsletter, and I think today I saw like 5 headlines about corporate treasuries going in.
Yep.
Like alone. It's crazy to see that game theory now accelerate after the election.
Mando, I used to track them and build ARB models for each one. I can't even keep up anymore. It's too many. I gave up. I was like, okay, I'll leave it.
It's like underperforming stock. Hey, let's buy some Bitcoin. Let's do that play for a bit.
Also, we see Sławomir Mencen, the incumbent Polish electoral could be president of Poland, publicly saying that he believes Poland should start a Bitcoin reserve. This is happening, guys.
Yep.
This is happening.
And once a big nation, once a top 20 nation pulls the trigger, they all have to follow. It's that simple. Then then we get to gold market cap overnight, pretty much.
Just that interest, gold is 17 trillion, right? And then Bitcoin is now 1.8 trillion on its own.
Yeah, 10x
total market
overnight.
cap of crypto is 3.1, bigger than Microsoft. But if Bitcoin gets to 100,000, it'll move past Google, just behind Amazon, and then above that is Microsoft, Apple, Nvidia, and then gold. We are so close. Like literally, this could happen.
So
go ahead.
I said that I was like 50-50 on that actually passing the Bitcoin bill. Novogratz, who runs Galaxy, Mike Novogratz, came out last week and said he didn't think it would pass, which I listened to. Although everyone else seems to be like gung ho for this. What do you guys think? Do you think this is going to pass or not? I'm still kind of 50-50 on it, but it does feel as though
I've spent a long time digging into all of the 10 sections of this act, and it's quite extraordinary. I don't know if you guys are aware. Like Section 9 says the Federal Reserve System gold certificates have to be turned in 180 days after enactment of the act. Federal Reserve banks will tender all outstanding gold certificates in the custody of the Secretary. This is the Treasury Secretary, right? This is taking all of this away from the Federal Reserve's power. No later than 90 days after the certificate, they will convert the gold into Bitcoin. This is in the act, Section 9.
Yep.
They're going to pay for the fund from the Federal Reserve Act surplus, which is 6.8 trillion, and lower it to 2.4 trillion. That's 4 trillion coming out of that fund to pay for the Bitcoin. Guys, this is a ridiculously insane act. You got to read it. Anyway, I'll put the post up in. I'll put the post up in here.
Like, this is the thing. Senator Loomis came out last week and said, 100 days we'll pass this, but you read it and you're like, this will be a very, very big thing for the US to pass. It's like literally we're going to sell our gold holdings to buy Bitcoin, and Bitcoin's going to be the reserve asset of the US government now.
It reads almost like the first step of disbanding the Federal Reserve. It's removing the Federal Reserve's resources and their power. It's an interesting play. I think there's more to this than meets the eye. Not just about a reserve for the US. It's about diminishing the power of the Federal Reserve, which we all agree is probably a good idea.
Perhaps I haven't kept. Can I ask a question? I haven't perhaps kept up with this, but is this settled? who will be the treasury, the new treasury secretary? Because
No,
my
not
take
yet.
on this is that
Not yet.
because my take on that is that it's exactly this which will settle. If it's not this guy, but what Elon Musk write here is that my view, for what it's worth, is that Besant, that's this guy, is a business as usual choice, while Howard Lutnick will actually enact change. And Howard Lutnick is the guy who was, I heard an interview, has exposure hundreds of millions of dollars to Bitcoin. So if he becomes Treasury Secretary, if this plays out, I felt that that's probably what it takes. If there is like the head of the Treasury is a huge Bitcoin fan, okay, then it might go through. 100%. That was my take on it.
Besant and Lutnick are the two candidates that it'll be one of them, and they're both very bullish. They both own crypto. It's bullish either way. So that's why I think it will pass. Obviously, there'll be revisions. Like this Federal Reserve stuff is going to get so much pushback. So you should expect a couple of revotes and revisions. But either Lutnick or Besant are very bullish on Bitcoin. So I think it'll pass.
And the other ace in the hole is over the majority of folks now in the Senate and Congress, the House, on the Republican side are very pro-crypto. And they are now in control. So it'll be hard to, if they all decide to do the same thing, it's going to go through. And then the other wild card is the president can authorize $10 billion buys every year without congressional authorization, which that could be a toe in the water too. I think something's going to happen.
This is interesting. Mando just sent me the Polymarket bet, who will Trump pick for Treasury Secretary? And this guy, Kevin Walsh, is 52% chance all of a sudden. I don't know about him.
Is the favorite in the betting markets over the last day or so.
Is that the Larry Fink recommendation?
Although I think Besant has been also viewed for like a position, but yeah, like I think they're both like relatively crypto positive. I don't think much is known about Walsh versus the other ones. But look, I do think this is going to be a pro crypto candidate. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. So let's move forward in the agenda. We have to get to the other topics as well. And we have other news. Solana is approaching all-time highs. And credit where credit is due. James, you took a lot of criticism during the rough times for Solana. Everyone was joking. It's only James left who is like the Solana support team and so on. I don't hear anyone laughing anymore. So what's your take on the Solana journey here? We are very, very close to all-time high. You're muted.
Way of the universe is the winner takes most. And now everything points to absolute domination. You know, it's what, 30,000 blockchains. Half of all activity is on one chain. The top use case for crypto has always been DeFi, DEXs, that type of stuff. And now Solana's absolutely crushing it. It does, I think, of the DEX volume dominance, I think Solana does 46% right now. Volume about 7 billion, whereas Ethereum is about 2 billion. And all the L2s, add that on to Ethereum, including Base, etc., it doesn't even come close to what Solana does. So it's like the shopping mall where everybody wants to go to shop and do stuff. And the question is, who can threaten their position? You got to be better, cheaper, faster. And you got a lot of product market fit as well. I've tried the other chains and nothing like the user experience of Solana. So just look at Marty's t-shirt. That's the answer.
Yeah, I mean, I made a post about it. I don't know if you guys read it, the facts versus feelings on Solana. I mean, just the people are just so unaware of the reality of the situation. And that is that no blockchain other than Solana has ever sustained 100 true TPS, transactions per second, over a 3-month period, ever, except Solana, which has done it at 800 to 1,000 TPS for over 9 months. And what has come from that? You know, the first bottlenecks, which was the RPC level, which they fixed. No other blockchain has even come close to testing scale like Solana. So
Correct.
all the blockchains that have theoretical TPS or claim to be this or that, they haven't even reached a level to test themselves under scale. Solana is the only one. And so at that, and I mean, I think Sui is probably the biggest candidate to support 1,000 TPS over 3 months. But until other chains don't even get close to 100, I don't want to hear about it. That's my feeling. Remember, TPS is not just speed; it's adoption. TPS is an adoption metric. If you've got 0.1 TPS, it means 0.1 users are using your network a second. It means no one's using your network. If you have 100 TPS, it means people are using your network. If you have 1,000 TPS, it means a lot of people using your network. So anyone who says they have adoption and doesn't have a high TPS is just lying. And I think these metrics and fundamentals are evolving. We're getting smarter. Real economic value is becoming a new metric over TVL, total value locked, and things like this will favor Solana. And we're seeing it happen right now. Institutional level, Sol strategies, developing fundamentals, people on X developing fundamentals, and Solana is just head at a height of adoption that no one has even comprehended at this point. And they're just about to release
Mando,
Firedance.
what do you see? Can I ask a question to you, Mando? What do you see in terms of the trading activity and so on? Do you see anything shifting away from Solana, or is everything, all the meme coin trading and so on, still concentrated there?
Not at all. Everything's on Solana.
Solana now has $8.2 billion market cap meme coins.
Yeah, it's crazy. We spoke about the meme coin market cap. I think it went from well under 10 billion on Solana about a month ago to now being like 23, 24 billion. And there are new meme coins running every single day. Like all the activity is happening on Solana. Like there's an occasional ETH meme that will come up and trade, but even the new narratives, right? The ones that we were going to talk about even this week, I just can't look at. We look at this chart way too often for how much people should care about it. Like if you've been watching this show, you should not be in ETH. Like we have said this so many times this cycle, like particularly going into that election, we were like, look, it hasn't been a runner. Hold on to the runners into the election. And it's gotten smashed, absolutely smashed. What you should be looking at is Sol versus Bitcoin, or maybe Sol versus Sui if you're looking for like an emerging coin. Like those are the two things you should be looking at. It's not, I don't hate ETH. I'm just telling you, it wasn't the asset that owned this going into that election. And just stop waiting for the reversal, right? It's horrific.
Well, I mean, Mando, to support what you're saying, Mando, we saw Vitalik and Ethereum Foundation presented their roadmap for Ethereum 3, where they claim to fix most of the issues and reduce finality down to, sub-second. Just by the way, Solana and Sui are milliseconds, not seconds. So they're not even close. And the roadmap ends in 2029.
Right. This is exactly my point. It's like ETH. The issue with ETH, right, as we've said so many times, is the way that it has scaled right now, because it's not at scale, right? It's nowhere close to its scale, that it's not burning anything on the L1. And also, people are moving away from ETH being both the gas asset and the asset for collateral, right? Base, for example, could very easily switch off ETH as its gas asset, and the TVL is also not going to be linked back to ETH largely. So, like the L2s are also not tied to ETH the way that they were. Now, maybe in 4 years' time, as we've spoken about these huge trends and things like AI, you start to get, hundreds of thousands of L2s, millions of L2s, all needing, huge amount of showing huge amount of transactions and TVL as well. That's when ETH starts to get to scale. But at this current time, ETH is built for a scale it does not have, and therefore it continues to underperform as an asset. Now, in next cycle, when ETH goes to ETH 3.0, maybe that's the time for it, but it just does not feel like it this cycle. And both the charts and what we've been telling you each week, just in terms of the fundamentals and the underlying volume, prove that. Now, we were going to talk about this later, but the stuff that's been happening in AI and even decentralized science, which is like a new emerging trend, which I've seen in the last week, it's happening on Solana again.
And so if I can just add one thing to what you just said, because it's also like the basis for my whole trading methodology. It's this observation that trends tend to get very entrenched in technology. Like once it's established, it tends to stick much longer than people expect in both directions, both the uptrend and the downtrend. So ETH got into this downtrend and still, couldn't get out of it. And it makes no sense to sit and guess when it will turn. It's very difficult. It's very difficult because it might never. The answer might be never, or suddenly it turns. Something happens and it regains momentum. But there's no signs of it yet.
There is a wild card. There is a wild card for the ETH, and that is the ETF, because the TradFi normies that are getting into crypto now, they might look at it and say, "Oh, Bitcoin's too expensive. I'm going to buy this Ethereum stuff," without having any clue about fundamentals. So that could help stop the downtrend, perhaps. But I do believe Bitcoin will continue to outpace Ethereum, like it has done for the last how many years? How long has that downtrend been in place? And then the macro downtrend as well since 2021 or even earlier.
2021.
Yeah.
Guys, we're breaking out on Bitcoin, 92,600. Looks like this could be the move for all-time high. Just wanted to show you guys, in October 8th, Solana caught DEX trading on Ethereum. And now it's November 19th. It's now 2 times Ethereum, 6.4 billion a day versus Ethereum 2.9 billion. Just out of interest, base is 1.3 billion. That's 6 times less. BNB is 1.2. That's 7 times less. SU is 237 million. So, substantially less. And then it goes down from there. Just out of interest, Cardano is 1.7 million. So it's 700 times less. So, these kinds of metrics are very helpful to understand the escalation of the dominance of Solana, as well as daily active addresses. Solana now has 8 million active addresses, 8 million users daily, versus Ethereum has 399,000. So the dominance is just...
We have to recognize, because there's a lot of Cardano fans in the audience, and congrats to those, because ADA has pumped quite a bit, I guess, on the news with Charles Hoskinson having talks to support the government on behalf of crypto.
We need to clarify that, though, CTO. We need to clarify there was all Charles Hoskinson statements. There's been no verification from any government person or anyone that that's actually true. And it's pumped in price, but Cardano currently has 59,000 daily active addresses. That's 59,000 versus Solana has 8 million. So until we see the daily active addresses or the DEX trading volumes increase on Cardano, it's probably going to pull down, and it's exit liquidity. Be very careful.
You know what's been crazy? The move in Ripple. Ripple.
Oh my God. That was an insane day.
Absolutely flown. And I think that's one thing that's caught a lot of people off guard. All on the, Gary Gensler's going to leave. But this thing came close to Solana this week.
Mando, I think that was all a reaction. I think Cardano and XRP pumped because Trump said in that statement that he will remove capital gains for US crypto companies. Firstly, it shows that Trump doesn't quite understand crypto yet, that decentralization means there is no company and crypto is global. But beside that point, Cardano is a US-based crypto. XRP, Ripple is definitely an XRP-based crypto. And then right after that, we saw Brad Garlinghouse, Ripple, meeting with Trump, Charles Hoskinson saying he's meeting with Trump. So I think there's some sort of a US crypto narrative or no capital gains powering them both.
Do you know the secret behind this, though? That that's fake news. Somebody on crypto Twitter made that up. It started getting picked up by major news outlets.
Correct.
It was a joke. And now major news outlets are claiming that US-based crypto companies will get zero capital gains. It is not true. It was a meme created up by a relatively well-known person in the crypto Twitter space called Base Carbon. And it's been an ongoing joke that he's managed to get this more and more onto mainstream media. So there's no source.
Repeat that to the audience. It's made up. It's a meme, people. It's not true.
It's not true.
First of all, if you want to play that game, Solana is based in San Francisco. Sui's based in Palo Alto. They're all American cryptos. So there's no, at that point it just falls apart. But and I don't think that'll ever happen. I don't think you can name a crypto, a blockchain, decentralized open source blockchain as being a jurisdiction. It's global. What I think Trump was meant to say was he will incentivize crypto companies, people that build on blockchains, to not have to run to Cyprus and Malta and Portugal and to come back to the US. Like we saw Circle is moving from Dublin back to the US. I think that's what they're trying to incentivize. So that's my perspective.
And there's one other cool thing. It's quite sophisticated because you have people like Charles taking selfies of himself last week at Starbase, pretending he's with Elon Musk. When really Elon Musk's at Mar-a-Lago.
He also did that he said he was meeting with Musk at his cabin in Montana, and there was no picture of Musk.
Yeah, it's very sophisticated. Just everybody be clever, do your research. This is just and it's funny because the rejoicing, as Marty says, the fundamentals have not changed. It is by far the most overvalued chain on the planet. I calculated each user on Cardano is valued at $700,000, whereas Solana's worth $2,000 per user. Think about that.
That is the best metric. You need to publish that.
That's I do all the time. It's one of the 60 I look at. It's critical for appraising a crypto blockchain.
No, absolutely. 22 billion divided by the current users is 59,000.
Yeah.
Work it out.
Simple math, yeah.
I love that. Good one.
I don't have any exposure neither to Cardano nor XRP. I think it's interesting to look at XRP here versus Bitcoin. So over 10 years, it's been exactly flat. So if you go 10 years back in the future, it's at the same point as Bitcoin. But of course, there's been a lot of volatility. Anyone who has bought, say that someone managed to buy XRP exactly at the pico bottom here in 2020, then they're up 100% versus BTC. But if someone bought XRP here at the pico top, here they're down 93% versus BTC. So I feel that my take with these coins that have been out for 10 years, it's pretty risky versus BTC. Just hodling them is really risky, hodling altcoins. Now this has turned out comparably well, and it's been flat. Most coins do not turn out like that. And I'm sure that a lot of people have slept much worse than if they had held the Bitcoin. We have a few topics left. Do you guys think that there is an alt season around the corner for more like utility altcoins, or will it continue to be a few coins only that succeed? In this season, it's been Solana and some meme coins, and the vast majority have performed very badly compared to Bitcoin. Or is it changing here? Is this a turning point? Who wants to go?
I wouldn't bet on that. I wouldn't bet on that. I still think, as I said, maybe on one of my first shows, there is an altcoin season happening. It's just maybe not in the altcoins from previous cycles. Like there are coins which are doing genuine 1,000x's right now, and there are a few emerging trends, but I would say that they're largely in AI and a lot of things around that. Meme coins. There are some small things, new DeFi protocols which have done okay, but a lot of the altcoins from previous cycles are not having an altcoin season, and I wouldn't bet on them having that altcoin season. I would focus on Bitcoin, some of the smart contract platforms that have done so far well this cycle, like Sui and Solana, and then I would look for the really strong emerging trends in for mind share in crypto at the moment, which is AI memes and maybe decentralized science. That's been a big one this week. Is actually overtook DeFi for mindshare.
What is it? I actually don't know much about it.
I barely knew what it meant until like a week ago. It was like a big thing a year ago, in that Brian Armstrong had invested in a company called Research Coin, which aimed to improve the quality of research being done in the US or around the world. So at the moment, peer review of science papers is not paid for. Like, and to actually publish, you actually have to pay the publication, like Science or Nature or one of these big ones, and all the peer review is done for free, or largely for free, which is why the quality of research often is quoted as going a lot lower in the US. And interestingly, with the advent of AI, what happened with the Harvard, whoever the person was, the person who like Gay, who ran the Harvard, who got called out after her response to October 7th. Like they peer reviewed her stuff with AI, and they were like, they found all this horrific levels of plagiarism. They're seeing that like across research. So the idea is to create a system to reward the peer review and publication of papers. So like be a reward for publication and also for review. So create an economy around that. But there's been a bunch of different things around this. It's kind of like a mix between DeepIn and science. So there's some around sharing quantum computing power. So to get like the most powerful quantum computer, which is kind of like DeepIn we've seen. There's been some around medical. So again, like using these incentives for like medical research. And there's some which are like a mixture of that and memes. But generally as a category, it blew up a year ago, then it died. And then in the last week, Binance said it was looking to invest in the space. And on Solana, something got launched called pump.science, which is aiming to launch a ton of new coins in this space. And 2 of them went to 200 million in the space of a week. And the whole space has just done a 10x, basically. Research Coin is probably the most well-known established one, because Brian Armstrong invested in it. But it's just, again, happened on Solana.
It's funny because I met at the Solana Singapore event. I met with a guy called Ryan B, who's in my community, and he is kind of like a big DeSci guy, big science research, clinical trial, cancer research, etc. person. And there are 2 big categories that he thinks are very hot, because A16Z is in the mix as well. They have a decentralized AI hedge fund with Solana focusing on longevity. These longevity coins, and they represent, as you say, legitimate DeSci projects. And there's a whole bunch coming, and everything is launching on Solana and even on pump.fun. And I think, as far as I understand, there's 20 new coins coming in December that are just DeSci projects.
Yeah, it's like
another part of DeSci, guys, that people have to understand is that DeSci, scientific data, results, publications, and all of that is completely gate-kept by centralized companies right now. DeSci, just like everything else, will use blockchain to make transparent peer review, transparent research. So we, the public, will have access to the data, and it's uncorruptible, instead of companies having the data and making money out of it. And then there's this new thing I've heard called IP NFT, intellectual property NFTs. So your research artifact will be on chain, like patents. So, just absolutely the same principles to money and ownership that blockchain brings is happening to science and research. I think it's wonderful. More transparent, scientific data.
Yeah. You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. DeSci.
It's very interesting, very interesting. I can totally understand it. I actually remember there was a project, I can't remember what it was called now, maybe someone remembers, in 2017 who tried to do this. They had some ICO, I think. But sometimes it can be like the idea is right, but it's just too early.
Yes.
Perhaps they couldn't execute on it. AI wasn't there. So, peer reviewing is much harder. I'm sure that an obvious component of this is like the AI-assisted review, which exists now and didn't exist then. Then also the whole COVID fiasco of the world, where the science, it wasn't the science fault. I mean, at the time I lived in Sweden, and Sweden did completely different from everyone else, and had published scientific reports saying that everyone else is wrong, basically.
Yeah.
But it was almost impossible to get that information out. It got censored and taken down and everything, even though it was literally on the Swedish government webpage. But you can still you're not allowed to post the link on social media and so on. Then it's
this is a fantastic intersection of what we've been talking about for a few months now, the intersection of crypto and AI. And I'll give you a little idea, an example of a case study from Palantir. Palantir had a research organization that scrolled through, threat type, what do they call it, areas of the world. 2,000 people in that department who did research every single day. There's now 20 people in that department. They whacked 2,000 because now with AI, they can do more with just 20 people. So I want people to understand how impactful this revolution is. And also doing things in the blockchain decentralized manner takes it to a whole new level. So this is really a crazy time to be alive.
Yeah. Just to focus on those two just slightly. So the DeSci is about $1 billion market cap total, all the coins, right? The ones that have run, I've seen this week, there's been one, like I said, about decentralized quantum computing power. There's one which is like an investment DAO into different biotech firms. There's one which is like the research coin. It's like a broader base. It's not just research. It's a ton of different things. And the other one is AI agents, which is now GOAT, which we spoke about on this show, just crossed $1 billion, hit 1.3 billion this week. The AI 16Z, which you just mentioned, which is like AI agent VC, hit 500 million yesterday. It's since dumped 300 million today, but like Zero Bro, which is another AI agent launching protocol, hit 500 million today. That is about 2 billion total, right? So you have all the coins for DeSci is about 1 billion. All the coins for these AI agents are around 2 billion. People in that space think these things are going to do many, many multiples. I'm not picking coins. I'm just telling you that those are two emerging narratives right now in crypto. They're all happening on Solana. Some is happening on Base, admittedly, with the AI agents, but they're ones to pay attention to. I think those are trends that at the start of a bull run, if Bitcoin goes to 150, 180K, those things can go nuts.
So that was the AI agents. We covered that. We covered the DeSci coins. We talked about utility alts versus memes. And I think we covered basically everything. Is there something we have missed? My takeaway from...
I shot you a bit of breaking news there, CTO, in your message.
Make it down news. Check your WhatsApp.
Okay.
James,
do we
maybe
have the link? I can
tell everyone, James.
I can share it.
It goes to prove the black hole where everything is going to.
Yeah,
so
black hole
deploy
soul.
quick, fast. Yep.
Black hole soul.
Between that and the Treasury arms race, it's all happening. It's crazy. It's gonna be a fun 2025. I've never been more bullish.
Epic Games. Epic Games has now adopted Sol for their games. I mean, it's just happening. Black hole Sol is in effect.
Yep.
I mean, I did a basic calculation the other day, guys. I just calculated what would the average transaction fee be on Solana at $10,000 for Sol versus $10,000 for ETH. It's a really interesting calculation based on current Lamport and Gwei rates and congestion and users. At $10,000 with current usage, linear growth, Sol average transaction would be at $1.65 at $10,000 Sol without any upgrades or fire dancer effect. Ethereum at 10,000, which we know what happened when it got approached 5,000. It would be $1,060 at the current congestion linear increase, because the problem is Ethereum doesn't have any usage. So it's quite interesting. Those kinds of metrics, I think, are influencing prices too. Is potentially Ethereum cannot support a price of ETH over $10,000 just because it becomes too expensive. Very interesting math.
This was the message, right, James, that MakerDAO or Sky has issued their stablecoin on Solana.
Yeah, and MakerDAO is the OG stablecoin player. A lot of OGs in the crypto space still hold Maker, and it's still hanging in there. I mean, you got Circle, you got Tether, and you got Maker. That's it.
Yeah, they
This is
were the
big news.
pioneers here in this area.
This is very big news.
This is big news. Yeah, this is big news.
And I feel my takeaway, if we kind of look at everything we have talked about today, I really feel it is a snowball. Everything is working together. The political movements, the corporates are starting to buy. We're talking about painting pictures into the trillions. And the only thing that could kind of derail this, if always thinking, okay, default here is that everything goes well and things keep going, what would be the signal that something changes? For me, it would be escalating political tension, missiles and stuff. Hopefully that doesn't happen, and some de-escalation can resume instead. I don't want to go back to talking politics, but I do hope that some change can come here from what we have seen over the past couple of years.
This is the other weird thing is this type of stuff, the type of team being assembled now is looking to literally rip and replace the US government in a very big way. So a lot of the incumbents are extremely nervous. There's a lot of grift. There's trillions of dollars of grift. The Pentagon loses trillions. They can't say, well, 1.3 trillion is lost. We don't know where it went. Can you imagine all the pockets that are being lined behind the scene with military industrial complex and everything else? That's all going to be ripped apart. And I am very nervous for the people that are going to orchestrate this change, because the incumbents have been doing the grift for 40 years, 50 years, and they don't want to give it up. So everybody, it is terrifying.
Can you imagine if they get Pentagon spending on chain?
Exactly. And that's why we need everything on the blockchain.
But we'll finally find out what happened.
Yeah.
A couple of tidbits before we leave, guys. IBIT options.
Yeah, big one. Huge. Yeah,
huge.
Remember, and actually, just for people to understand what IBIT options means, it's going to bring so much more liquidity and institutional players to Bitcoin. It's going to blow this thing up, because typically, if you look at gold has about 200x the actual market cap of gold in an optionable type of play. The same thing's going to happen to Bitcoin, big time. It's going to be huge.
Huge. Some other tidbits. One Bitcoin just passed the average US retirement savings of 86.9 thousand. That's huge. So owning one Bitcoin is better than the average US retirement savings. I think that's quite a big thing.
That's an incredible statistics, Martin.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, right?
Yeah. 2 years ago, you could have bought it for 15,500. Isn't that mad?
We saw HBAR take a leap too. HBAR, Hedera hash map, also with ties as a US company. It was that same narrative, capital gains on US companies. HBAR made a big leap. We saw that. Congrats to the holders. What else before we leave? Yeah, I think the big news will be the media jumping on the fact that Bitcoin crypto market cap passes Microsoft, and Microsoft is just about a vote on Bitcoin being a reserve asset. Very interesting.
Yeah, I think they're going to say no. A lot of old money and the Vanguardids and those types of folks that hate. Like Vanguard holds about 20% of Microsoft. Their vote alone will be a no. The board don't want it. They control a lot of shares. And most of the OG holders of Microsoft hold it since the 90s. They don't even know what Bitcoin is. So I think it's going to be rejected. I hope I'm wrong, but
I think it's going to be interesting as crypto passes Microsoft, then it's going to approach Apple. I think once it approaches Apple, the narrative will change again. And then obviously Nvidia's next at 3.6 trillion. It's not far off, guys.
Yeah.
Crypto total market cap past 3.1 trillion.
Yeah, Jupiter year to date has done $140 billion in trading volume, and I'm a big part of that. So, it's funny. That's crazy too. One DApp, 140 billion in volume.
Do you think Satoshi flips Elon here? He's worth over 100 billion if he's still alive. That's the question here. Does Satoshi?
Yeah, it depends. You know, the future value of SpaceX and all that stuff. Tesla will be bonkers. I still maintain Bitcoin will do incredibly well, but you can't actually appraise the value of disruption of AI. And I made a video over 2 years ago, 8 ways to 8,000 for Tesla. I still do believe it's going to outperform Bitcoin, but Bitcoin has that scarcity edge.
I'm giving you thumbnails. That's all I'm saying. I'm giving you there. Satoshi versus Elon wins.
What if that would be a fun rich list? If Satoshi ends up,
what
number one
I've been
on
saying
the world's richest
is that Elon Musk is Satoshi.
What if it turns out that what if it turns out that he's actually alive, but he lost the password? He forgot the password to the hard drive.
I'm starting a polymarket bet. I believe Elon Musk is Satoshi.
Maybe. I mean, I think there must be a polymarket still going, right?
Because he mentioned it. Remember in the Lex Friedman thing, Lex asked him, "Are you Satoshi?" And his answer was very telling. He deflected and said he believes it's Nick Szabo, right?
Szabo, yeah.
But I think Elon Musk is involved. Putting it out there, you heard it first, November 19th.
Mando, what's your closing take on today?
I said last week go sideways for a bit, right? We hit 90K and we did kind of go sideways for a little bit, but I think we're going to hit 100K by this time next week. That's my take.
Also, we didn't talk about Doge, guys. Doge had a huge rally. Doge, by the way, well done to the Doge holders.
Oh yeah, Doge, fantastic. Elon, keep pumping. It's so funny that they actually call this Department of Government Efficiency. They actually call it Doge. It is absolutely hilarious.
Marketing genius.
So funny. It's so funny.
So Amanda, you calling for 100K in the next 8 weeks, you said?
Next week. I'm actually going with you here.
Wow.
I think we can actually
my team.
This looks like it's heading to 100K. Like all the dips get bought. The FOMO's there. The inflows are insane. I don't see how that goes lower.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at all the technical analysis that I look at, 126,000 is the next stop. I think it does 126,000. Then there'll be a mega. There will be selling press at 100,000. Let's all be clear. I mean, psychological number 100,000. We should expect a decent pullback there. I think that's one hell of a trade if you can set along at the bottom of that pullback. But then I think we go to 126,000 and consolidate around 96 to 105 for a couple months, I would say.
Yeah. My play is actually until the inauguration. I think we got 8 weeks of insanity here. And then I'll start reducing some risk around the inauguration.
But I suggest everyone read S4912. It's on congress.com, the US government website. Go give it a read. There's 10 sections. It will blow your mind.
James, what's your final take from today? We're closely over time, so I'm trying to wrap it.
Well, what's going to happen is Saylor is going to issue probably not 1.7 billion, 2.5 billion in debt. That's coming straight into Bitcoin. That's going to have an effect. And every day we will see more Treasury releases. And Dennis Porter basically said as well, 2025, we're going to see announcements from nation states that will blow your mind. So it's happening. Just be patient, everybody. Hold on.
Another bit of news, James. Dennis Porter, he broke it. Pennsylvania also declared Bitcoin a strategic reserve and actually put it on the bill for vote.
Yep.
After Florida too. That election, swing state stuff.
So
that is a radical turnaround.
And this is the whole front running game. So now you have treasuries trying to front run other treasuries. You have nation states trying to front run nation states, and then you got states in the US trying to front run the US government, stacking Bitcoin. It's an absolute tsunami tidal wave coming.
If I may wrap this, then it would be like this: that the best thing that happened today, and the takeaway from today for me, is that Marty has shown his mother the Bitcoin chart. And her insight is that it is pointing up, guys,
Mom says
it is pointing up. And I'm telling you, that insight from Marty, your mother, would have outperformed 99% of all professional investors over the past 2 years. So I think the reward here goes to your mother. She has
Just by the way,
beaten all
my mother
Wall
keeps
Street
her money
pros.
in DuPont and other old school legacy stocks with dividends. That's her game. So I'm trying to get her to move into Bitcoin, but it's hard. My father, on the other hand, asked me about a year ago, and he started to move in, and now his financial advisor calls me for meme coin tips all the time. Otherwise, my sister doesn't believe in it at all. But there you go. My mom she's the one I got to turn around. Nearly there.
Nearly there.
Awesome.
We don't give up until we have succeeded.
Oh,
yeah.
One thing before everyone leaves. Obviously, follow us all in our respective places. CTO,
Yes.
YouTube, and obviously you can has trading tools. Marty on X, also his own community, InvestAnswers on YouTube and on X. We also have a new X account at
Yes.
the DCA pod. Very similar to the All In pod. We are the crypto version at the DCA pod. We've streamed today's episode direct from there. We're going to be putting mini clips and have some community-based stuff on that. You will see us all there. Unfortunately, CTO did get cropped by the profile picture there.
We'll fix that.
We'll try and fix that. But yeah, go find us out. There's only 182 followers, so this is alpha. Go check it out right now. We are on X, our our favorite platform, along with Elon.
Samantha, we
The
have to
question
think
is,
of our
who
names.
is the Jason and who is the David Sachs?
Exactly. I'll be Sachs.
Yeah, you can be Sachs. I'm definitely not Jason. Don't like the guy.
We'll all be either Sack or yeah, no one can be Jason. Let's put it that way.
Actually, the other piece of news, it was very refreshing to see how, saddened, the anguish of, and it shows you the importance of holding on to your winners. But Shamath was on the All In pod, and he was like, oh my God, if I just held my Bitcoin, I'd have another $4 or $5 billion. And he had a fund with, I reckon, about back in 2013, 2015, 100,000 Bitcoin with a bunch of partners. And the partner said, sell.
Yeah, he's gone back a little bit. He went really back into it about 12 months ago. But you actually hear him 10 years ago, and he was really bullish. And then he kind of was less bullish because he thought that it wasn't really going to make it. And then he's kind of gone back all in.
Yeah, I mean, Chamath is his investment firm Syndico is a major, a VC in Solana. Did you know that?
Yes, big time. And Sachs also holds Solana, and they never sold. So.
And Jason on a months ago on a podcast was freaking out, having a nervous breakdown that Solana was 40 billion. I don't know what his life's like right now at 120 billion.
Jason said he owns Bitcoin though. Did you not see that post the other day? He said, "Oh, actually, I own some." It was incredible. He was like, as Bitcoin broke through all-time high, he basically said that Bitcoin wasn't going to die and that actually he owned some.
Mando, that's what happens. I say Peter Schiff will buy his first Bitcoin at 104,000. You buy higher, you get the price you deserve, right? You get the price you deserve.
It's an IQ test.
If the Federal Reserve sells gold and buys Bitcoin, it's going to be a dark day.
If Peter Schiff posts that I was wrong, oh my God, that is bullish. We'll see. Anyway.
I think the Peter Schiff case is quite typical because his son is quite interested in Bitcoin, if I remember right from social media. I think for many it will be like that. It will be a generational shift. Very few young people are going out to buy gold. So things are going to change, guys.
Yes,
Let's
they are.
call it a wrap. Fantastic times in the market. Bitcoin is pumping. Thank you, everyone. And
thanks,
see
guys.
you on Monday. Monday next week.
Monday next week.
Next week we're back to Mondays.
Awesome.
Guys, go follow the Twitter account. DCA pod. Go give it a follow. We'll report everything there, notifications, and stream there. Thanks, guys. As always, awesome show, man. Epic.
Thanks, gang. Thank you. CTO, great job. See you, Amanda. See you, Marty.
Enjoy the pump.